I had a vision early on of how I wanted to treat cameras. I wanted it to be very grounded. I wanted it to feel that you were there in the experiencing the war. And we had these great talents come to our aid on this film. We had Antonio Riestra, who was our live action cinematographer that I worked very closely with, and then we had David Scott, who was our digital cinematographer that I also worked very closely with.
This started with a long-term friendship that I have with Brad, and we had always wanted to work together. And then the moment he sent me the script and everything around the project, I was instantly captured by it, and of course I put all my energy into it. The story is brilliant. You have these two men who are on opposite sides of a war, and they are playing chess by using this carrier pigeon who's taking, their moves from one side to the other. So that way we determined, for example, who was going to be on the left, who was going to be on the right.
One army was on one side, the other army was on the other. We tried to use those visual cues so the audience always kind of knew where they were.
He had a very clear idea in his mind of what the differences between each battalion had, and how the shape of things were, and how the colors would mingle. And he had a very clear idea of what he wanted.
Antonio and we talked for a long time in the beginning of the film about lens kits that we wanted to use, what style filmmaking we wanted to sort of approach. I wanted the beginning of the film to be very locked off shots. So we're either locked off shots or there's a single axis moves on it, because I wanted it to be very simple.
We really tried to get the camera work to reflect the intensity of what Winston was feeling throughout the whole story. So at the beginning, when he's reasonably sort of calm and it's quite slow and monotonous, camera work is really very, very simple, very elegant, a lot of simple dolly moves.
Everything becomes warm and humanity comes back in. Then you start getting these buttery dual axes camera moves, and then when the war comes back in, then it's handheld and all hell breaks loose.
As things start to ramp up for Winston, you start to get a sense of an operator. You can feel like a camera guy maybe is in the space with them and he's got something over shoulder. And then finally when we get to the end, it's just crazy, with the handheld, and we really feel like we're in the battle. Working with a virtual camera is a fantastic experience, because there are, the physical limitations that a regular camera has, that any kind of digital film, name it, kind of camera has, are basically let's say transcended by the virtual camera. You can do scaling. If you want to travel 10 meters, you can set up this scale to 10:1, 3:1, name it, according to the space that you're subject to. And then you don't necessarily have to be right in front of the actors. If this is where the action is happening, you can transport the camera to this other side and then bring all the coordinates, so that when you're moving, you're actually seeing what's happening here through the Unreal interface. To say an example, when the guys are playing chess and whatever, I was able to be there without being there, but I was seeing what the guys with the suit and the sensors were doing on one side. On my screen, I had the Unreal, so the two characters that were already drawn. You're working with an alternate reality that is already drawn, and you're transporting that into the real space, and that takes away all the limitations. You can be right off the ground. You can do a drone shot. Everything is in your hands.
Antonio and I worked that out. We talked about lighting. We talked about how we wanted to tell the story just with camera and lighting, and we had a very good plan put in place, which was fantastic. We went onto stage, we shot all the performance, and then when we went back to shoot the VCam, they actually locked down the cameras on stage, Antonio got sick and wasn't able to be on stage that day.
I got COVID. So I arrived to the stage and I got tested, and I tested positive. I actually had to be locked in a hotel room and work, and I was shooting long distance.
He was like piped in through Zoom, and I was doing the VCam. I was operating the camera, which was a great experience. Now it goes into the digital world, and now David Scott takes over, and he's doing camera polish. He's reworking cameras. We had new scenes. We redid the whole third act. Him and Aiden Martin went on stage and shot almost like a huge percent of the third act, and they shot that together and would bring it back to me, and we'd rework it. And David would come in, and we would really lock down lens choice. We would really lock down camera polish.
Throughout the whole thing as well, we'd do this process where I'd set the basic keyframes as a really smooth camera move and make sure we're getting the story right. And then as a secondary animation layer, I would then go in and add all the handheld and all that extra detail. But at any time, if we changed our mind, I can still go back to that first layer and change the move.
There's certain shots where we achieve milestones. There's a low angle shot where by Winston's feet, and Winston's on the battlefield, and we can see hundreds of soldiers coming at Winston, and that is a culmination of hundreds of hours of technical and creative artistry coming together to get that shot to work. And when we knew that shot could work, we knew we could do the whole battle, and we knew we could make the film. And so that shot has a special meaning to me as a producer, because I knew we could achieve what we were setting out to achieve when we created that shot.
It was just a really great handshake, I feel like, between Antonio being a live action cinematographer, David Scott on this film being a digital cinematographer, and what we got, I felt very believable, and that's what we were going for this film.